What I love to do is introduce the right people to the right people.
I assemble the smartest people I can think of or reach out to carry that conversation, and that's exactly what I've done today.
Please give my panel a round of applause. Welcome.
Okay guys, Jay Martin here, CEO of Cambridge House, and I am joined right now by Shawn Wallace, the Executive Chairman of Torq Resources. Shawn, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Jay. Thanks for having me.
You know what? It's about time that I had you because maybe unbeknownst to you, I've been an investor in several of the companies that you've been associated with in the past. And so I'm very excited to dive into this one and introduce you to my audience. You're part of a group that's delivered several handsome returns for shareholders over the years in good markets and bad. And so I'm very excited that you're now leading a copper company in this market. And so where I want to start, Shawn, is with some of the trends that you're seeing in the copper space, because I'm being bombarded by my audience for inquiries and opportunities in the copper space. What led you to jump into Torq right now, and what trends are catching your attention in the copper sector?
Yeah, I mean, look, we were putting Torq together prior to the, copper being as topical as it is today, because, one of the things in this, we want to talk about the characteristics of the copper business and being in the copper business. It's kind of like being the captain of a huge cruise ship instead of a small, more nimble boat that you would find, say, for instance, in the gold space. Copper deposits typically, to be meaningful, the ones that have an impact on supply and demand, the ones that the world needs right now, take a long time to discover, a long time to drill off. They're huge. They take a lot of capital to get into production. But then on the flip side of that, they run for many, many, many years, and they create a lot of economic benefit for shareholders, stakeholders, and the like. Very topical right now. As the current ESG movement in boards and in corporations is afoot, and we really embrace that as well. You mentioned that you've been a shareholder in some of our previous enterprises, but my prior life, before Ivan and I came together and built the group that we've been able to deliver those in the last 18 or so years. Prior to that, I was with the Hunter Dickinson Group. And so I really cut my teeth on big bulk tonnage, copper, gold projects, Mount Milligan, Kamass. These are all projects that are currently being mined, being as part of the team at the Pebble project in with Northern Dynasty. That story's still ongoing. And as you can see, these are big projects, took a long time, a lot of players involved, and because the copper market is such that it's a real economic bellwether, and you're seeing that right now. And what's new this time, however, is that there are there always were new uses for copper as technology has slowed, but the pace at which the demand for copper, I believe, will be required here going forward. We've never seen it before. And that's all happening at the same time. The copper really hasn't been something that junior companies have been discovering. Major mining companies have been hunkered down, mining the projects they have, depleting their reserves. And there's a real need now to replace them for the current and oncoming demand, in my opinion.
Yeah, you're right. And every macro trend is pointing to copper right now, whether it's EVs and the demand for copper, whether it's, it's funny, a question that I've gotten, actually was a statement that I've heard on this channel a handful of times, was copper is the new oil. And I put this as a question to some of the individuals that I speak with, like Rick Rule and Warren Irwin, and they fire back and said, it's not the new oil, it's the new pipeline. It's going to be required for everything, whether it's energy transport, new home builds, electric vehicles, the list goes on and on. But the renewable energy trend is probably going to be what we're all talking about for the next 5-10 years in mainstream media.
Absolutely, I concur with that, and you're seeing that.
Right.
And I think there's going to be other factors that people are going to realize how dear copper supply is. We're going to come into some real shortages, and you're going to have countries hoarding it, people buying stockpiles of it in anticipation of price appreciation down the road. I mean, one small example, as a number of years ago, I was involved in the platinum palladium business, and they came up with these I don't know if you remember a company called Ballard Power Systems, and they came up with this fancy fuel cell.
Yeah.
And then you had auto manufacturers going in and buying up stores of platinum and investing in mining companies. And obviously copper is a much bigger conversation than, say, platinum palladium that's so specialized, but I think that was like a microcosm of what the macro, which is what I think copper, I believe, to be with the far-reaching needs and its implications. As you said, it's not just the EV world, it's everywhere. And it could get pretty scary in terms of what the price can do. Although, I would love to see a higher copper price, and it'd be good if there's some order to that.
No kidding. Okay, now, whenever we see, given the macro environment and the hype and the sentiment driving investors towards copper, there's always going to be an increase in noise, Shawn, and an increase of companies that don't deserve investors' attention. So I want you to do us a favor and help guide investors. What can we look for? What should we look for when separating the great from the rest when it comes to early stage copper companies?
Sure. I think what I'm about to say applies to outside even copper companies. And as you point out, the thing, really, particularly though in the mining business, because this isn't a business that you can just show up in because you're an entrepreneur and do well. I mean, the amount of the sort of far-reaching implications of the technical prowess that your team needs to have. So again, to simplify it, the people. The experience. Have they found a big copper project before? Have they drilled off a big copper project before? Have they permitted one? And now in a modern context, and very importantly, how are they going to deal with the communities? Because these are usually big impact mines. They're usually out in the middle of nowhere. However, if there are no people close by, there are going to be if you're successful enough to have a mine, because you're going to have to move thousands of people to operate the mine. And all these things are opportunities, but they're also banana peels. If you don't have those things in place, you're going to slip and fall, and you're not going to be successful. I think the competitive landscape for, say, a group like ours, we look around, and we're not the only good or successful or experienced group doing this right now, but I can tell you, few and far between. So as you pointed out, the noise will show up because the opportunity's there. People are going to show up and, of course, touting big plans and things that they want to do, and bless them if they can do it. But my confidence, put on my investor hat, I would not invest in somebody who hadn't done it before. I just don't do it. It's too risky.
I'm with you. Actually, exactly. It's funny. I talk about that all the time on the channel. I'm not opposed to betting on the rookie at all, right? Most of my life, I've been the rookie, right? Soliciting bets. Yeah, no. But, with my capital, when it comes to the venture market, I want to bet on success. Success begets success, and so we want to look at the track record first.
Absolutely. And if it's a new CEO, for instance, like myself, I worked for 20 years with a group like Hunter Dickinson, learning all the things I need to do before I became the guy doing an interview like this. I was the guy in the back grinding away. I think you need to see at least that. I don't want to see some guy who was a weed CEO last week being a copper CEO this week. I guess if I'm going to put it bluntly. Yeah,
that's the best way to put it. Okay, now let's talk about Torq. You guys are focused in Chile, the Margarita Project, and then you've been talking a lot on previous interviews about how you've been hunting for acquisitions. For context, today is May 25th, and this morning you guys announced a second acquisition, the Andrea Project. So why don't we start with Chile? Shawn, why Chile?
Well, Chile, we like Chile for a number of reasons, and not least of which is a number of our team members have experience there, so it's familiar to us. And, in the current business environment, which is, obviously we all know what that is, and is difficult to operate right now, particularly when you have to do it by remote. We were well connected in Chile with those people. The thing that I hold most dear, the thing that has made me successful isn't myself, it's all the people around me. We were able to partner up with some fantastic people in Chile who have, so much experience, have made major discoveries there, have seen those discoveries through to production in some of these great storied deposits. So for us, that's a specific reason why we were there. But some of the bigger reasons why we're there, when we look at any jurisdiction as a group here, we look at, what's the mineral tenure system look like? Well, in Chile, they have a mineral tenure system. It's complicated, but it is tried and true, and it's been there for a long time. Can we navigate it? Yes, we can. Check. What about the environmental and social climate there? Is it positive about mining? Chile, yes, it is. Check. I mean, we've all heard some noise recently about, increased taxation and so forth, and I'm not going to get too distracted on that right now, but I'm just going to say that you can expect to see that in every jurisdiction, everywhere in the world, as long as these metal prices continue to increase. It's been my experience in my career, having worked in probably 20 different countries around the world over the last 30 years. Anytime we start getting successful, or anytime the macros, the metal prices start to go up significantly, the governments look for their piece too, and I think that's all you're seeing there now. But I think it's manageable. I also believe we got to, it's not a banana republic in Chile. You got a proper government there, and you have an unbelievable bed of talent, technical talent, geologists, engineers, environmental biologists, all of it, labor. the whole 9 yards. So that makes it so you can operate. When you have to reinvent all these things yourself, not only does it increase the risk, but it also increases the cost dramatically.
Yeah, 100%.
Those are a lot of the reasons. And then I guess the number one reason, frankly, the thing that none of us can control, which is the endowment in the earth. What I mean, at the end of the day, for instance, and I'm not going to get too geological on here, but for instance, in the Andrea project, one of the things we love that it's in the Miocene rocks. Well, all the great granddaddies of copper deposits are in there. We know how deposits behave in that geological environment. We know what to look for. We know the steps, and that allows us to manage risk, because managing risk is our number one job.
Okay.
Of course, our business is inherently risky. In other words, we're trying to find something where there previously was nothing. So that itself is inherently risky. So it's incumbent upon us as the leaders of these companies to make certain we can mitigate all other risks associated with. And Chile is an environment where that is imminently possible.
And Chile is where the copper is, as you said. So let's talk about the projects then. We'll get to Andrea, the new acquisition. Let's start with Margarita. You guys have been working on Margarita. You had a team down there doing surface work. I believe you have drilling planned for Q3, but walk my audience through what's occurring at Margarita.
Sure. I mean, it is an earlier stage project. In other words, there's not a resource there already. There's a confirmed copper mineralization, the right geological structure. It's in the right belt with other mines and well known. It's got good infrastructure. You can drive to it. It's and it's got all the work done to date. It was done very much in the way we would have done it. So what we've done though since acquiring it early in 2021 is to get our guys on our technical people on the ground there, and sort of take our bite out of it in terms of prepping for drilling. So we'll go in and we'll do some more IP, tighten up the lines, and we had a news release about that, and it came out the way we had hoped. And so before you go do the expensive exercise of drilling, the ultimate test, throw the terrible truth machine onto the deposit, you want to make sure that you've measured twice so you can cut once, because it's expensive to do so. And and plus you can only permit so many holes at a time, so you don't want to waste a permitted hole on a sort of a duck hunt, if you will. So the project is shaping beautifully. So what we've done is we've gone in there, done all that early stage work, and now we're really preparing that one for drilling. We'll do the exact same thing at Andrea. Of course, we've just announced it today, but what people can expect is the dribble out of news as we prepare it, as we get more steadfast in our belief that this should be drilled. We'll be sharing that with everyone, as we have with Margarita.
Okay. And then, just given the track record of yourself and your team, are you still hunting then, Shawn, for more properties, more optionality? Talk to me about the future.
Well, there's every bit as much energy going into that as there is into sort of seeing these assets to their fruition. And so, the Andrea project represents sort of like step 2 in a multi-step population, if you will, of our portfolio of high quality assets. So these are just the first 2. We're extremely excited about them. I think that we could probably make a company out of the 2 of them, but we're not going to stop there. With the acquisition of our Chilean team, sort of a shadow team of us up here, which has been fantastic. The types of opportunities that we're seeing right now, really, I have not seen in my career. Now, everybody says that, but it's truly true. Nobody else is down around trying to acquire assets right now. So we're starting to the quality and the scale of opportunity is only getting better. And we are well down the road on some additional assets right now that I hope to be able to share with as completed acquisitions with everybody here in the next 6 months or so. Okay.
Now, last question on Andrea, because I know you look at hundreds of projects. What caught your eye about Andrea?
Again, proximity. It's only 100 kilometers on a beautiful paved road. It's within a relative distance of a cluster of mines in the same rock package. There is mineralization all over the project. We believe that the drilling that was done, all it did was lead us to where we drilled. Initially, it had been drilled for epithermal gold veins at the top of the system, and with no consideration whatsoever that there might be a porphyry underneath. Well, there is. We figured that out by mapping and trenching and all and that sort of thing. Or the people we acquired it from did that work. We haven't done any of our own yet, but we certainly went and did the comp for, during our due diligence period. We confirmed that we believe that the reasoning is sound for drilling, and the opportunity for big bulk tonnage deposits exists. Again, having done a number of these big bulk tonnage projects in my career, a lot of those stories evolved the exact same way this one was. Someone, several years ago drilled looking for one thing. They kind of sniffed into the thing that we're now looking for, but they didn't recognize it then, not because they're bad or they're dumb technical people, whatever. They just weren't looking for that. So it wasn't a strategy. Well, it's our strategy, and we're quite happy to pick it up from here and see what we can do.
Okay, I like that. Okay, now, Shawn, just to recap what I see with Torq right now, why I wanted to have you on the show, it's the opportunity to invest before something big occurs with a team who has a proven, tried and tested track record. And, I'm talking about your background with Hunter Dickinson. Thank you for bringing that up. Your background with Ivan Bebek, a name who's familiar to my audience because he's been on this show a handful of times. You guys built and sold Caden Resources, built and sold Keegan Resources, and the team. We didn't talk about the president of Torq, but Michael Kosawan is another face who's familiar with my audience because when he was part of Sprott, he spoke at my investment conferences a handful of times. And then, of course, your chief geologist, Michael Hendrickson, who again he's involved in your family of companies. And I love when a company like Torq is able to pull resources from familiar organizations, right? And when you share talent and pool those resources, it only strengthens the whole.
Yeah, that's a lesson I learned from being at Hunter Dickinson. They ran a similar model. They got rather large, so our goals here aren't to get quite as large as they did. The size that we are now is probably us being as big as we want to be. Nor do you think we will reinvent ourselves as mine constructors or that sort of thing. If we, for instance, you referenced Keegan. Keegan was a success. We didn't sell the company, but what we did was we found a mine. There was no transaction to be had, so we brought in an operating team, and I still actually sit on the board of that company. I'm sort of a legacy director still, but it's producing over 400,000 ounces of gold a year. Caden was probably our more preferred exit, if you will, with a nice premium takeover, and that really put the wind at our backs to create the companies Orin, which I'm sure are the ones that Ivan's been telling you about more recently, or the spinouts from there, and now Torq. We were able to populate these companies with shareholders and capital early on that you wouldn't be able to do, thanks to that wind at our back, and that track record, and that collective pool of talent.
Okay. Look, Shawn, thanks so much for making the time. Torq trades in Canada under the ticker TORQ, and in the US, TRBMF. And I appreciate you coming on, Shawn. Love to do this again down the road, maybe 3-4 months, catch up on what's changed.
Sounds great. Look forward to doing it. Thank you very much.